Coming up on iOS today, Rosemary Orchard and I have the devices in our hands, and we are ready to talk about the new iPhones and that new tiny iPad mini. Stay tuned.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Whoa, hey, oh, hello, and welcome to iOS Today, the show where we talk all things iOS, tvOS, HomePod OS, iPad OS, all the watchOS. It's all the OSs that Apple has on offer, and we've got a great show planned for you today. I am one of your hosts, Micah Sargent.
And I am Rosemary Orchard.
Well, hello, Rosemary. How are you today?
Oh, I'm good. I've had some fun getting ready for the show because, I got to play with some new toys. Who doesn't love that? Yeah, this is going to be a great episode, I think.
I think even your nails might be matching right now.
No, my nails are actually a gray color, which kind of picks up the purple because I've got blue and pink lights in here because I've gone purple all the way down, Micah, all purple all the time. I took it off so that I could show people. I've even got the English lavender woven or braided solo loop, which is lovely. I really like it.
Very pretty. Very pretty. Well, folks, this is the time. Rosemary and I got our devices, I believe both of us on Friday, and we're able to sort of give them a nice little try over the weekend and get to know them, get a little familiar with them. And so we are excited to talk about them today on the show. We've been waiting and we're pumped. And so, Rosemary, tell me about everybody loves to hear those stories about your experience of getting the device in the first place. Did you have struggles with orders? Did you have struggles with getting it set up? How did that go for you?
So ordering was a little interesting because I was actually on holiday in France with less than stellar internet. So I did the pre-order thing where you can set everything up. So theoretically, your order should just be available in the app. You open the app on your iPhone or your iPad after the store goes up and you tap go. And I did that. And I put my iPhone with the Wisteria leather case in there. Then, of course, the store didn't come up. And I was actually at the beach at the time. So I'm there using a hotspot on my iPad. I've got an international roaming hotspot just roaming on my phone, trying to get in. And it took a good 7 minutes for me to get in. But then I still managed to get it for delivery day, which I was quite impressed by, despite, literally lounging at the beach 10 foot away from the sea whilst actually putting my pre-order through. So that was good. But yeah, it was certainly interesting. I feel like the App Store is slower to come back up for a lot of people nowadays compared to what it used to be. But equally, you can, people are still getting them on launch day even, 5-10 minutes after the store officially opens, which is great. So there's some wins and some losses there. What about you, Micah? Did you brave a store in person?
No. So I did not brave a store in person. My experience of ordering was a little bit different from yours in that there was no beach. In fact, it was a sofa because it was 4:57 a.m. I had set an alarm for 4:50 or something like that. And I was on the sofa because I didn't want to wake up my partner for my very early morning iPhone pre-order. So he got to sleep to his normal time for work. I slept downstairs until the iPhone. Then I, went to bed after that. The pre-order was super amazing this year. Like you said, the every year they kind of add more to the pre-plan process. And so this year, not only could you pre-order your device or sort of get your device set up, but you could also put in your details for the card. So last year, you had to type in if you were just buying it outright, which is what Twit does here, type in the CVV code the night of. This, you could do all of that ahead of time. So it was maybe 5:02, 5:04 when the store rolled over and let me come in. And I just hit, get this. And it said, your pre-order is done. And I thought, are you sure? That seems a little too easy. But it was all good. I got the Sequoia green case, which I yes. Sorry, lots of noises for the listeners. I love this green so much. I love it. Sequoia green, beautiful. But anyway, that was easy. And then I was kind of concerned that there was going to be some issues with my iPhone delivery because I got a notification the day before that said that there was a routing error with one of my packages. And I didn't know for sure if it was the iPhone, if it was the leather wallet case, or if it was the leather wallet, or if it was my iPad mini or the iPad mini case. It could have been any of those products. And so I was like, oh no, they all ended up coming on the same day. But what frightened me was earlier in the day, I think it was probably 9 a.m. on Friday, UPS dropped off 2 packages at my door, and UPS was making the delivery of both of my items. And so I got, I picked up the box and opened it up, and it was my iPad mini in the case. And I thought, oh no, they had the iPhone in that truck. They're not going to be coming back. It ended up being that they were just on 2 different trucks. So by the end of the day, I did have both devices and the cases that go with them. But I actually, and I'll segue back to you so you can talk about your setup process, because I actually waited one day to set up my new iPhone just because it's such a, there's a lot of anxiety that I have about the cellular part of it. Everything else is fine, but the cellular part of it I was concerned about. The iPad mini, on the other hand, I was able to set up immediately because I just rolled everything over, transferred everything over, and it was good to go. But tell me about your setup experience, especially given that you were on the beach I guess that was for your pre-order. So what was your setup experience like, when you were back to actually get your package and hopefully have it arrive?
I was lucky in that, it was very odd because I actually got 2 different deliveries from 2 different companies on Friday. So my iPad mini and case came in the same box. And I thought that was really interesting because I ordered some Apple Watch bands earlier in the week, and Apple, in their infinite wisdom, shipped these to me in 2 separate boxes. I have no idea why. These would definitely have fitted in the one box together. I checked because I kept this and went through and checked it. And so I was 100% expecting the iPad mini and case to come in 2 separate packages. And they actually came in 1 package, which was great. And those arrived at sort of 10 o'clock in the morning. So I set that up. That was easy. I restored it from my iPad Pro rather than my iPad mini because I wanted to get all the data off of the, or rather I wanted to keep the same or very close to the setup of my iPad Pro rather than the mini, which I never used quite in the way I'd intended it to, but the iPad Pro is much closer to how I intended it to work. And then I was sitting around twiddling my thumbs going, okay, so when is Syncreon delivering the parcel? So Apple uses Syncreon to handle the launch day logistics of iPhone here in the UK, at the very least the delivery part of it, and they hand it off to DHL. So UPS brought my iPad and iPad mini, and then DHL brought me my iPhone an hour and a half earlier than I expected, which was fabulous. So I just popped it open, started setting it up, and the one thing I forgot to do was transfer over my SIM card, which I noticed the following morning when I went to make a phone call and went, oh, wait, why did it make that? Oh, okay, because there's no SIM in this. So I had to go and get my iPhone mini from before, which I've still got right here because there's a reason for that. We'll see later in the show. And get the SIM card out of that. But it was surprisingly good. The one thing that went wrong is I had to leave the house. And leaving the house is such a terrible idea, Micah. Don't do it. But the problem it was transferring my Apple Watch at that time. So I had a choice. I could either leave my Apple Watch and both iPhones at home and have no way to communicate with anybody for the entire time that I was gone, or I chose option number 2, which is I took it all with me. And that was fine. Like nothing went horrendously wrong except for the Apple Watch transfer failed. And so I tried to get it to transfer a couple more times and it just wasn't having it. So in the end, I ended up wiping my Apple Watch and then restoring it on the new iPhone, which was fine. But it means that I have now been bitten by the less than stellar mask to unlock bug with the Apple Watch. I cannot enable that right now. So that is very unfortunate. I am running the developer beta 15.1. Still not fixed. So crossing my fingers that Apple ships a fix to that later this week. It is only Tuesday after all. So they might have shipped it right now. We don't know yet, Micah.
Yeah. So for me, I had the same issue with the Apple Watch. The Apple Watch would not connect automatically. It sort of looked like it was transferring and then it failed. And so I had to set it up as a new Apple Watch, same whole thing. The other thing for me was the iPad mini. I used a different iPad to set up because for folks who've done this before, they've got the little strange blue orb that pops up that's basically just a proximity sensor to make sure that you are the one that's setting up the new device. And so with the iPad mini, I used my iPad Pro next to the mini and did the transfer. And it took, I think, an hour and a half, 2 hours. With my iPhone, however, my new iPhone, transferring from the old one, because the next day I decided to do it because I remembered that I did not have an eSIM. I had a physical SIM. So all I had to do was just pop it out of the old one, pop it into the new one, and I was good to go. Again, I thought I was going to have to contact AT&T and it was going to be a whole thing. And so I get anxiety about that, and it didn't end up being an issue. But it took 6 or 7 hours. I didn't time it exactly, but it took 6 or 7 hours to do the direct transfer from one iPhone to the other. Quite a while. I was kind of blown away by how long it took to do that. So both of my phones were just sitting in my office, plugged in and just hanging out next to each other for about 7 hours that day. The next day, so it would have been Saturday, just waiting for the transfer to complete. And so, yeah, I was deviceless as far as that went. During that period, but I didn't have to go anywhere, thank goodness. So I was able to just sit at home and wait for that to finish. But yeah, once we had them all set up, we got our transfer done. We got them set up and good to go. Tell me about your initial impressions of iPhone 13 and kind of how you feeling about it in these early days. Did you put it through its paces?
Yeah, I did. So one of the first things that I had to check, and I've checked it several times again to reconfirm, this is not the Pro Max, this is the Pro. And it feels humongous to me. Bearing in mind, I was on the iPhone mini before. I actually had a 12 Pro Max. So theoretically, I know what the size is. But shuffling devices around in the family, there was a claim on the 12 Pro Max when I said that I was interested in getting a mini. So that happened. But the iPhone mini it doesn't seem screen size wise like it's much smaller, but wow, that does make a big difference when you're holding it. But I couldn't say no to these cameras. These cameras are so good. But I did, I started by picking it up going, wow, this thing's amazing. Could I frisbee it? And then I immediately went and got my MagSafe pop socket and stuck it on the back. This is just, I think this is the Galaxy Nebula. That's the name of it. Nebula pop socket from Pop Socket, and it's MagSafe. And you just pop it on. It sticks on there. It's very satisfying thunk, and it's not going anywhere. Just to be very clear, even on the Pro, I checked it on the old Pro Max. I went back to a family member who claimed it at the weekend and said, I need to borrow your phone and stand next to your sofa for 10 minutes and shake. It didn't go anywhere with that either. Yeah, I was slightly amazed at how big this thing is. And I did use it as an opportunity. I only transferred using iCloud. I didn't do the direct device transfer. Because I knew I had to leave the house and I needed a working phone for that. And I didn't want to have to take a humongous battery pack with me along with 2 iPhones and an Apple Watch and an iPad mini when I left the house. It seemed a tad excessive to say the least. So I did the iCloud option because this way, when apps are downloading, you can tap and hold on one and say prioritize this. So for the apps that I use the most frequently, which are the ones on my home screen, I just did the tap and hold and prioritize those. I also used it as an opportunity to switch my mail client to the mail app from Apple because it seemed like a good opportunity to do that. But yeah, it was setup for me, aside from the Apple Watch issue, was relatively painless. And a friend of mine just pinged me and noted that even if the transfer of the watch works, because it did for him, it still turns off the watch unlock. So everybody is facing that issue. But as ScooterX has posted in the IRC, Apple's promised to fix this. I'm hoping that it's a relatively easy fix because that would be really good to have that back. It's very frustrating right now. My passcode is only 6 characters, but it feels too long, and I actually would like to set it to a longer passcode for security. But obviously, I'm not willing to do that right now when I have to type it in 10, 15 times in the supermarket, even though technically I don't have to wear a mask, but I do. But yeah, no, I'm really impressed with it. It feels like a very nice device. And the blue in particular is a lovely shade of blue. And, you can, depending on what light it's in, it really does pick up purples, which is really lovely. And especially if you pop it next to something that is purple. And for people who aren't aware, purple is my favorite color. So I frequently have other purple things around. So it does pick up that color very nicely. And especially in the wisteria case, it's good. I'm genuinely impressed. And the screen, I have to say, captured me more than I was expecting. I do have the 12.9-inch iPad Pro with the ProMotion display. That's gorgeous, but I don't know, maybe because I didn't have a 12.9-inch device before, but I've never really gone, wow, the screen really feels amazing. Maybe it's because I do hold my phones, closer to me most of the time, whereas my iPad Pro is usually on my lap or at a bit of a distance. But wow, yeah, the screen is gorgeous. And it really, it somehow feels a little bit faster just from the screen perspective, which I know is just my mind playing tricks on me rather than anything else. So yeah. It's
the subtlety the subtlety of that variable refresh rate for folks who are wondering what we're talking about here. There's the ProMotion technology in the iPhone in particular is a refresh rate that can ramp up or ramp down depending on what you're doing. And so often with scrolling, the screen is going to be at 120 hertz refresh rate. So everything looks, instead of there being a kind of almost a motion blur that takes place where you see some of the stuff on screen but not other things, so as you're scrolling, things kind of blur away. With 120 hertz, it's like your eyes got an upgrade in the sense that you can sort of see everything moving up and down on the screen as you are looking at it. So it's a really fascinating thing, and it's kind of hard to sort of quantify without actually looking at it yourself. But I noticed it a little bit more. I think I've gotten used to it because of the iPad Pro to a certain extent, but having it on the phone and sort of recalibrating everything brought that out again. I know that people really love, especially sort of gearheads, really love the 120 hertz refresh rate. It hasn't been life-changing or anything like that, but I do find it an interesting upgrade that looks cool. But with that, I think the opposite understanding. It goes up to 120 hertz, but it can also drop down to very slow refresh rates depending on what's on screen. And by doing that, it improves upon the battery life. And these phones, the iPhone 13, the iPhone 13 Pro, all got a huge battery life upgrade that I think makes all the difference. The people are really, if they are getting the newest phone, are really going to dig. Where the iPhone 12, I was able to, use it all day and not have concern about battery. This just takes that to the next level. So when I'm doing things that are outside of the norm, maybe I'm doing more going to San Francisco or something, so I'm using navigation more, than with this newer phone. At the end of the day, I don't have that concern that I might be running out of battery and need to pop on or pop in a charger. So I think battery life is going to come out being one of the favorite features of these devices, just because of the improvements there. I'm curious, Rosemary, about your experiences with the camera so far. I know I've had fun taking some macro photos.
Yeah, so I've not really gone anywhere to take great pictures yet. Something I'm actually hoping that I'm going to be able to have an opportunity to do this Friday. But I have been messing around, taking some pictures. I did some macro photos of the material of my sofa and things like that. And I really enjoyed that. What I'm most enjoying, though, is the new telephoto, the 3X telephoto, because that was something I definitely missed on the Mini, that telephoto lens. The Mini, for people, this is the 12 Mini, not the 13 Mini, The stuff doesn't have a telephoto lens. It's only got the normal and wide angle lenses. And the new iPhone mini apparently has very good battery life, which is my other complaint. That one's been fixed, but the camera has not. So they can't fit an extra lens in there. But I'm really liking it, especially the image stabilization. The fact that every single lens has optical image stabilization now, that for me is a big thing, because I'm not a great photographer. I do love taking pictures and so on, but even though I've got a very nice point and shoot with, proper optical zoom and everything on it, it's I think it's a Canon something or other with 30 times optical zoom or something like that. At least that's what I remember it saying. I've got that, but I'm rarely going to take that and use it to take pictures, just because I always have my iPhone with me and I don't know when I'm going to want to take pictures. And I don't like carrying a camera around. I used to have a DSLR and I knew how to do all the things. So when I was on holiday with my parents, my dad was saying, there was no point with the other cameras, because if he walked into somewhere and it was dark, he would spend 10 minutes changing all the settings on the camera to make sure that he got a really great photo of this lovely dark area, and then have to go back outside and set everything back to what he previously had it set. You walk into a dark area with an iPhone, you pop open the camera from the lock screen, you press the button, you take the picture, you walk out, you spend 10 minutes enjoying the actual site that you're looking at or whatever it is, or this area you stumbled upon, and then you walk back outside. And your phone does everything automatically. Now, of course, you can stick your camera in auto mode, but if you're carrying around a DSLR, you probably shouldn't be using it in auto. There's a reason why all those settings exist, and they don't on the iPhone. But I have to say, I have really been liking it. I've tried the cinematic mode. Now, I have to say, this is very difficult to try when you don't have an entire cast of people and a set or, places with everything planned out. But it is something that's fun. Micah, I'm wondering, have you managed to train your dogs to use this feature for testing on it yet? Or are they just staring at you going, there's not enough treats in the world for this?
Yeah, they have this weird aversion. They're like, as soon as the camera comes out, they're immediately like, oh, he's trying to take photos. So now we have to start acting like silly little dogs that run away. It's like they know that I'm trying to capture photos of them. So I had to do some stationary things just for testing. I haven't, I'm going to try to get some fun shots done soon. But just, in the lead up to today, I did a few tests with there are some photos on my refrigerator. And so I sort of stood back from my refrigerator so that the island that's in the middle of the kitchen was in front of me, and I have stuff on top of that. And so the focus kind of shifted from the stuff on the kitchen table in the foreground to the photos on the refrigerator in the background, which required me manually making adjustments as opposed to the automatic that's available with cinematic mode just sort of built in. So I like you said, this, I think, as cool of a feature as it is, it doesn't seem to be one of those that is just sort of a shoot it and you're done kind of thing. This is one of those, let's figure out how to set this up so that it works how we want to. I mean, Apple hired a director and professional cinematographers to show off this feature with its promotional video. So yeah, given that, that this is one of those features where it's going to be better if you do take the time to set it up. I was trying to think on Twitter, I saw a fun set of videos. Someone had, because cats perhaps will stay in one place longer than their doggy counterparts, or at least will ignore you as opposed to when you're sort of crouching. Yeah, because if I crouch down with the camera, the dogs immediately get up and want to come over and jump up on me and say, "Hi, how are you?" But a cat's like, "Ugh, why are you so close to me?" But at least it stays still. So there was some fun video on Twitter the other day, and I'll have to try to find it while you're talking, because it was a cat kind of sitting on a sofa, and there was some cinematic mode between the two. So yeah, I mean, cinematic mode, as cool as it is, I just haven't had a chance to really give it a go. But did you like, Oh, have you used any of the photo modes, the new photo modes that are available in the camera? Because I found that they don't seem all that different to me from the stuff that's already built into, or the stuff that was built in the filters that were built in before.
Yeah, so I had a little bit of a look, and yeah, it's one of these things where I haven't really seen a big difference here. And I don't know if this is because I'm holding it wrong. That is, of course, a possibility. It's always possible to, be doing these things wrong. Generally, I've not seen much of a difference. I have found portrait mode seems to be better. But equally, when you're taking a picture of a glass of water, it's really difficult to mess it up. So I'm really glad that, that's not gone away. So I will just pop open my iPhone here on the screen. And we're in the camera mode. So I'm just going to point this down on my keyboards and try my best to keep the iPhone still. Now, what I've done is there's this little arrow at the top of the camera where below the notch, where if you tap that, then it reveals some further options. And the further options should be under these 3 squares here, where you can then swipe to customize the camera. So you can switch between standard, rich contrast, vibrant, and warm. And yeah, as you said, Micah, I mean, in this particular case, I guess my keyboard is probably not the ideal test bed for this. But if I swipe over to the filters, then I have, vivid, vivid warm, vivid cool, and so on here. And honestly, these obviously, they're using different technologies. But it seems to me like those are more likely to get the result than that I'm after versus the actual new features. However, of course, it's possible that the new features will get a bit more of an upgrade as time goes on, because there is now people have got their hands on these cameras. Then we'll see what people can do with them. And I know Austin Mann did a really great review of the iPhone camera, which we can put a link to that in the show notes, I think, in case anybody's really curious to see how a professional photographer used an iPhone 13 for a while.
Yes. Always love that. I found the video, so we could show that really quick. This is from Chris Davies on Twitter. And the tweet just says, cinematic mode is basically just for cat videos, right? And you have to agree, a cat does make a good subject for using cinematic mode.
Yeah. As
you switch between this really pretty textured pot in the foreground and a sofa in the foreground to black and white kitty in the background, sort of yawning and looking around. I guess it was a bowl, not a pot. But it's just for folks who are listening and not watching, it's just these sort of sweeping pans of a kitty cat and that nice bouquet effect that's there. As Chris moves between the foreground and the background of the cat. So some fun stuff. I mean, what I liked about this video is that it actually looks pretty good. It didn't have that portrait mode feel that, because even to this day, Apple's made a lot of improvements on portrait mode, but even to this day, I will regularly on Instagram see people posting with portrait mode turned on, and you immediately know, because if there's like a hole that their arm makes, because they're sort of grasping their waist akimbo style, or they anywhere where there are little spaces in the background, sometimes those will not have the same bokeh effect as the rest of the background, and you immediately go, oh, that person was using portrait mode. But with this, if it's done well, I think in a well-lit area, here's the tip. Use a well-lit environment and try to stabilize the camera in some way. That will help you. Yes. And then the other thing is that just keep in mind that you can do the focus changes afterward. So don't feel like you have to tap on the screen while you're recording it to get that focus mode change done just as you want to, because you can make that happen after it's done. In the settings. So don't again, don't feel like you need to, because that could sometimes sort of make the photo blurry. You'll see, like, you can definitely tell that this iPhone, that's on a tripod. That thing is stuck fast. It's not going anywhere. Yeah. And then, of course, this scene is professionally lit. But you don't need the professional lighting. You're just, as that cat video was showing, that was just natural light from outdoors. But yeah, more lighting, the better, given that it's switching between those lenses. And the same goes for macro photography. When you are taking a photo with your iPhone 13 Pro, well, I guess, yeah, when you're taking a photo and you want to do the macro photography, it happens automatically. You will actually see sort of a transition between the two as you get closer to an object. Apple may be changing that in the future, where you can sort of turn off automatic switch to macro, but right now it's an automatic thing. And so I was moving in on, I've got a paper towel holder from OXO, and on the top of it is a little, knob that you can grasp to sort of pull the paper towels. And so I just wanted to take a macro photo of that because I was sitting at my kitchen counter. So I sort of moved in, and it recognized I wanted to do mono, but then it unrecognized that I wanted to do mono. And so then it sort of zoomed back out a little bit, and it was showing the whole top of the paper towel roll. So it can be a little finicky right now in these early days. But it shoots, here's what I'll say. It is not as macro as I was expecting. While it does shoot closer than, iPhone 12 or any of your other iPhone or iPads, it was not as sharp and close as I thought that it was going to be. So, yeah. I think what we will do is we will wrap up our thoughts on our new iPhones before we move on to our iPads next. So some more thoughts coming up on iPhone 13 before we move on to talk about iPad mini. All right, Rosemary Orchard, tell us about your final thoughts after a weekend being hands-on with the iPhone 13.
Well, it's still big, but I think I'm okay with that. I found with a little bit of work, especially thanks to the MagSafe pop socket, I can reach my thumb right from the bottom corner right up pretty much to the top corner. It's a little difficult for me to demo because of the way I have to hold the pop socket at the back to keep a secure grip. Obviously, I could, like shuffle my hands around like this, but then I feel like I might drop the iPhone. That is honestly, I think so far my only complaint. The other things are small software issues, which will, I have zero doubt, be addressed as time goes on, with the watch unlock and everything. It is a gorgeous phone screen. I really like that. The cameras are great. And the battery life is incredibly impressive. I do have a friend who just got the 13 mini, and they said that the battery life is on par with their 11 Pro that they had before. And so I'm very pleased for everybody who's interested in the mini, but maybe held off because of the battery life. Now seems like a good time to jump in. I'm very pleased. It's gorgeous. The blue color is lovely. It's a nice light blue color. For people who don't like that, there are other color choices. So 13 Pro definitely gets my vote of a great device. What about you, Micah?
Sequoia green case, leather case. I think that the leather cases are fantastic. The ones that Apple makes, I think, are fantastic with the machined buttons. And for folks who are wondering too, the camera bump is even more expressed so that it keeps those cameras covered up. You'll notice, as I'm sure many people have shown, it's kind of, it's really hard to tell on here, but the camera lenses on the new iPhone, the green one is the newer one, are quite a bit bigger than the ones that you will see on the iPhone 12. So yeah, again, kind of hard to see on here, but you'll have to take my word for it there. They are much bigger, and overall, I'm enjoying this device. I would say if you have an iPhone 12, and you're thinking about upgrading, but you're not 100%, you're not going to get something that is so much better that it's like, wow, I'm so glad I did this. But if you're upgrading from an older device, I think that you will have that wow factor. So just bear that in mind. But ultimately, very cool device. Loving the battery life so far. the Sierra Blue is nice. I do wish again that there were more colors for those of us going for the Pro model. And I think Apple nailed it in terms of iterating on an already great phone.
Yes. Yeah, I do just want to say, in case people have seen the comments about how the iPhone 13 Pro does not fit on the MagSafe Duo, that is not 100% true. Basically what happens, I don't have my MagSafe Duo here. Unfortunately, I left it in the other room. But the MagSafe Duo does just come up. It's got a very narrow tolerance right here, but it does still fit on here. There are no problems with it actually fitting there. It just, it feels like, because this camera bump is bigger and deeper, and this sticks out further, that it feels like maybe it doesn't fit quite as much. With a non-Apple case, you probably won't even notice it at all. But for anybody who's worried about it, I've tested it out. My iPhone 13 Pro charges on the MagSafe Duo, no problem. So you don't need to worry about that.
There you go. All right, folks, that means it's time to talk about the iPad mini. I don't know about you, Rosemary Orchard, but I am loving this new iPad mini. I think it is the perfect size. It has a gorgeous little screen. It's my little buddy that I could carry around with me everywhere, because I do have monster hands. And so it's very nice to have this little thing along with me. I got it in, I think it's just called Space Gray still, but with this really vibrant orange case. And my shirt has some orange on it to match with to coordinate at least with my iPad mini. This is a beautiful little consumption device that also has some handy, creation features as well. So it's a little productivity tool, and I have been enjoying using it just every single day as the little take-along device that does it all. So tell me about your initial thoughts with the new iPad mini and kind of how you're feeling about it.
Well, I had the iPad mini 5, which is right here. It's rose gold. The Apple Pencil stuck to the iPad mini behind it, because if I turn this around, you'll see that the new iPad mini is definitely smaller, at least height-wise. Width-wise, in the case, in the Folio case, this is Apple's Folio case for the new iPad mini, it's about the same. And obviously, depth-wise, this is now a little bit thicker. But I picked it up and I immediately went, oh yeah, this is a little easier to hold. I'll just pop that iPad mini down instead of dropping it off on the floor, because my grandmother is after that. She's got her eye on it. But I immediately, I opened it up and gosh, this is gorgeous. This is a lovely device. And the screen, again, feels really nice. I know some people are saying that they can see the difference between this and the other, the 12.9-inch iPad Pro, the 11-inch iPad Pro. But equally, I'm holding this a little bit closer to me than, say, a bigger iPad, just because it's lighter, so it's easier to hold higher. And I'm enjoying it. So I usually take my iPad mini with me when I go places. So this time I've opted for the cellular model. And Micah, I'm not boring like you. I've gone with, oh wait, I got it in purple. And I've got the iPad mini here from the 12 mini, because I wanted to show people the purple contrast. Because unfortunately, the iPad mini purple, as people can see here, it's kind of like gray that once saw purple and is longing, but its memory is quite faulty, so it's not very good at picking it up or remembering what it's like. And you see it a little better perhaps when I do a bezel comparison. One of those is much more purple than the other, but the case, Micah, they nailed the case. The English lavender case is absolutely gorgeous. I love this so much because, first of all, it's a folio case, so it wraps all around the device and it pops off incredibly easily. Because, I often have the iPad like this, but I can also just, flip it around like this, use my Apple Pencil, take some notes, and it's great. This Apple Pencil, I did not buy a new Apple Pencil. I stole this from my 12.9-inch iPad Pro. And then at the weekend, I was there and I was writing something up on my iPad mini. I was using Notability, and I went, hang on a minute. I need a bit more space. Went over to my 12.9-inch iPad Pro, picked up the Apple Pencil from the mini, stuck it on top of the iPad Pro, picked it up, and then just wrote on the iPad Pro. that was it. It's incredibly easy to swap this between devices. It's not like the previous one where you pop off the top and you stick it in the bottom of the device and you wait for a moment for it to connect. Or if it's not charged, you wait half an hour and forget what you were going to do with your life or anything and lose the cap in the meantime. There's none of that. It sticks on. And it magnetizes nicely. And for people who are curious about attention to detail, I'm going to see if I can hold this in the right place. You can't really see it, but the pencil does just fit nicely between the antenna bands on the cellular one, which is great because the SIM card slot is right down here underneath where you can magnetize the Apple Pencil to. But yeah, this is good. So I upgraded to cellular this time because I had Wi-Fi before. And, during the pandemic, that was fine. But before the pandemic, I did have a couple of little difficulties because I was having to tether to my phone and it would drop out every once in a while and so on. And I found out that the new deal that I will be on as of, I think, next week with the phone company, I can also add the iPad to it and I'll be able to share data between the two devices if I need to. So I can get a low data plan. And so when I found that out, it was a case of cellular is happening because isn't this gorgeous? I have to say, Micah, I've mostly used this for playing games. Mini Metro and Mini Motorways have made a bit of a comeback over the weekend for me. And I was all in on that because it is a really nice device to be able to play that with. It charges quickly because that USB-C, and you can just plug it into any USB-C charger and it'll draw as much power as it's able to, which is great. What about you? Do you wish it had come in green? Are you longing for a green iPad mini?
So the reason I went with the space gray model was because I was gonna, as I said, sort of step out, show it off with that really bright orange case. But yeah, mostly it was me sort of pouting about the fact that it didn't come in green because the iPad Air did come in green, and so I was hoping that the new iPad Mini would as well. Unfortunately, no. But as Anthony has pointed out in the iOS Today Discord chat, says he feels like this would be great for cloud gaming. I 1,000% agree. This is the perfect little device for that. And you talked about how you were also playing games on it. It's just big enough. And so you can put it somewhere, it could sit on your lap, it could sit on a table, it could sit wherever you needed it to. The other day I was using it. I have an old Kindle, a Kindle Voyage. And most of the time, I've said before, most of the time I listen to audiobooks, but occasionally there will be a book that comes out before it's an audiobook and it's enough of something that I want to consume that I will go ahead and grab it on the Kindle store and read it. And so I was reading through a book, and most of the time I use my Kindle for that. However, I wanted to eat. And so the Kindle, you've got to press the buttons on the side or the fake buttons on the side to move the pages along. And so I thought, I know what I'll do. I'll take my little iPad mini, I'll roll the case back so I can set it up, and I will open up the Kindle app and have it in landscape mode. And then I will just be able to swipe really easily to change, to go forward with pages. And so it was a very nice little experience for me for doing that as well. I think this is a great device for, sometimes you're like, I want to show you this video, and everybody kind of huddles around a tiny little phone. This is the perfect size to where it's still handy, still convenient to hold in your hands, but you can show people things. You'll notice I've got the Apple Pencil stuck to the side of this. I don't always carry it on there because I do like using the Apple Pencil on the bigger screens. But what is handy is the Quick Notes feature within iPadOS 15 that lets you quickly take notes on your iPad and be able to use those for whatever you happen to want to use them for. So you swipe from the bottom right corner of the screen and a little note pops up. You can then use there are different pencils or pens that you can use that are common in the Notes app, but there's another one which is really cool, and it is basically it automatically turns your writing into actual text. So as you're writing, it goes ahead and translates that into text that can then be stored in the app. And then I don't remember. Did you mention the upgrades to the front-facing camera on this?
I did not, but that is something I wanted to get to because I spend a lot of time, hanging out with friends, chatting on Zoom or whatever, just because it's, it's easier than just sending texts back and forth, and it's more personal. And the center stage on the 12.9-inch iPad Pro definitely stole the show a bit. You walk away to get a glass of water, you walk back, and as soon as you pop into shot, the iPhone zooms in on you and does this really dramatic zoom in. And it's a lot of fun. And it's even better on the iPad mini because the iPad mini goes everywhere with me. And, if I'm hanging out with people, occasionally at work in the mornings, we do it's like office hours kind of thing where we all just sit around and do whatever we're doing. And then we can ask, each other what's, about some other stuff, which is quite nice. I've been using this for that, for when we do have cameras. We have one day a week with cameras. The rest of the days of the week are no cameras because people don't like each other that much, I guess. I think it's mostly that people didn't want to get out of the habit of working in their pajamas every single day. So this is slowly easing us back before we go into the office a whole day a week. But there we go. But it's really great. The camera is so good on this. I'm genuinely impressed. I also used the back camera on the iPad mini to take a couple of pictures. It's not something that I'm going to be pulling out to take photos with, but if I want to take a picture of my iPhone or of multiple iPhones, then the camera is great. And it's 12 megapixels, and it's ultra wide. And that really does make a big difference with the FaceTime, Zoom, etc. Just because it's perfect for that sort of thing. And the flash on the back as well is I wouldn't say it's a much needed upgrade, but if you're going to have a camera, having a camera with a flash is always better than having a camera without a flash. The number of times I've tried to take a picture of, say, a document, that is my most frequent usage of the back camera actually on the iPad in general, scanning documents. And the 12.9-inch iPad Pro is kind of unwieldy to do that with. It's the same size as the document, but the iPad mini is great for that. You just need a flat surface, open up the Files app, tap and hold on an empty space, and then you can scan a document and boom, do that with the iPad mini.
Yes. There's something like I could see so many people getting a lot out of this device because of its size, its ease of use, etc. I think it's really just a handy little thing that I think that people will be kind of driven to purchase. Not only does this have, not only does it come in a nice form factor, but it also is, it's packed with the latest processor from Apple. The screen is much improved. A lot of people like Touch ID, so you've got another Touch ID device. It has that new camera that can do the fun zoom and reshift of the view thing. Something that I wanted to mention that I just thought was kind of interesting is the top, because of where the Apple Pencil is, the top has the volume buttons, but not just that the top has the volume buttons. These buttons are orientation aware, so that whichever way you have it, volume up is the one that's on the top, and volume down is the one that's on the bottom. So you can have this in different orientations and still be able to sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Even without thinking, how you turn it up or you turn it down.
Yes.
One of the things that kind of confused me at first is I was kind of wondering, why do all three of these panels have magnets in them? If whenever I'm using this, I am, putting it in this sort of tripod or triangular arrangement in order to lift it up. And then I realized that's because when I wrap it around back, if I want to show the camera so that I can take photos, that will the panel that covers the camera will magnet to the one next to it so that the camera is on display and you can easily take a photo with it. That just didn't click with me at first. And so whenever I realized that, I thought that is just a clever little design thing. I think I recommend, if you're going to get this thing, getting the Smartfolio case to go with it, or finding, a third-party case to go with it, simply because of the size of this, it just feels like a device that you're going to want to sort of carry around and not toss around per se, but sort of move. You should feel free to move about with it. And I certainly feel more free to move about with it with this case on the top. Less fingerprints are getting all over the cover of it, etc. And so, yeah, I've been very, very happy with this case or with this iPad. You've got speakers on the top and on the bottom, so that it sounds good even at this small size if you just want to use it to watch shows or what have you. And then I like this too as a nice little display for controlling the smart home. This is, I think that should a new iPad mini come out in the future, this one's going to stick around as perhaps a wall mounted panel that I'll use to control my smart home, just because it's the perfect size. And it's just, it's very good at what it does. So, yeah, I've been very impressed. Apple, I think, knocked it out of the park with this new iPad mini. And I'm happy to see the iPad mini continue to get the attention that it deserves, because I think that there are a lot of people out there who like the iPad in this tiny little size. So my only wonder is how long it will be until somebody, be it Apple or a third party, comes out with a keyboard case for this thing.
Yeah. Because this is the difference between this iPad mini and the 12.9 inch or the 11 inch iPad Pro. What we're missing are these three little dots down here. They would be about there-ish or probably about here-ish. The smart connector. There is no smart connector on this device, which means that there's no possibility of a Magic Keyboard or a smart keyboard. So we're going to be Bluetooth keyboarding with this. Now, I ordered and received before, and I need to arrange to return the Logitech Keys to Go. It was on the product page when I was checking out, and I thought, sure, this looks like a good keyboard for me. I found, unfortunately for me, it's too spongy, and I have to press what feels like too hard on the keys to make the keys respond. And it's also bigger than the iPad mini, which is not great. So I'm going to be going back to my previous solution of a folding Bluetooth keyboard, which turns off when you close it. It magnetizes shut, and then that's it. It's off. It's not perfect. There's not going to be a perfect solution to this, but I miss the old days, Micah, where the first iPad mini, I think it was, Logitech had this little keyboard that magnetized on the front like a smart cover. And then you just picked it off and you put it in a slot that was, maybe, a 3/4 of an inch into it. And then that slot sort of had a tilt mechanism in it. And I really wish I still had that keyboard, because I think this iPad mini might actually fit in that. And unfortunately, I don't. I went through everything to look and see if I still had it, and I don't. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what we get there. And hopefully there will be something good that we can use as a Bluetooth keyboard. In the meantime, I will be sticking this with a folding keyboard. I have a Tom Bin padded organizer pouch, which just zips across the top. And this just slides in there with a little bit of space at the top and the bottom. But it's nicely thick and padded, so I can just chuck it in a handbag and go, and I don't need to worry about it at all, which is wonderful. So I'm really excited by the iPad mini.
Yes. All right, folks. I think that's going to bring us to the end of this portion of the show. Of course, that means it's time for some feedback and stuff. But if you've got Rosemary and I, there's so much to talk about. There's so much to cover with iOS 15 and iPadOS 15 hitting and these new devices hitting. I know we've got an accessories roundup sort of show planned. We've got all some of the fun apps that you can take advantage of with iOS 15. There's so much to talk about, and so I'm really looking forward to the next set of episodes. But that means that it's time now to get in your questions and things for these devices, specifically for iOS 15, iPadOS 15, watchOS, etc., so that we can make sure to cover that on the show. You can send those to iOS@twit.tv. Excuse me, iOS Today at twit.tv. So send those to iOS Today at twit.tv, or if you're in the Discord, then you can get in touch with us there. But with that, we should move on to Shortcuts Corner. Hello. and welcome to Shortcuts Corner, the part of the show where you write in with your shortcuts requests, and the shortcuts expert, Rosemary Orchard, answers them for you. James has a Shortcuts Corner request today. James says, so I'm trying to get into the habit of using focus modes, but running into annoyances with the apparent limitations. Driving mode seems like a great built-in one, but the inability to whitelist any apps, because you can't whitelist any apps, you can only whitelist people, or even let time-sensitive notifications come through makes it basically unusable for me. There are certain notifications I need to see even while driving that all get squelched. I looked into possibly creating a custom driving mode where I can enable those things, but it doesn't seem like it can be automatically triggered the same way. Rosemary, do you have thoughts on this? I don't know if there's a solution, but thoughts for sure.
I have thoughts and a solution. Unfortunately, James is in the Club Twit Discord, so I got to have a bit of a chat with him about various possibilities of what we can do. So I'm just going to pop open my iPhone here and show people. So this is under settings and then focus modes. Okay. So as we can see, I've got a custom focus mode called podcasting. But if I pop into Do Not Disturb, that's the original focus mode. Then you can see I've got some allowed notifications where I could choose people, and I can also choose apps. In my generic Do Not Disturb, I have none of these enabled because I don't want anything to come through. But if I go into driving, the only thing I can do is people. And the problem James specifically was running into was something to do with the requests that come through from his daughter to allow for screen time and so on, where it is just a case of you click the OK button if it's appropriate. And so there's a couple of options here, because this turn on automatically is, of course, different to the other turn on automatically, which is enabled in other focus modes. So inside this is my Do Not Disturb. I'll just pop into my work one to show people. So I've got turn on automatically between 8:30 to 1700 weekdays. So that's 5 p.m. And so every single Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, it turns this on. And that's our schedule. And I can toggle that off like I did when I went on holiday. But that is really useful. But driving has a different one where you can say when it's so it does this automatically, and that detects when the car is driving at speed, which also can trigger when you're on, say, a train or a plane or a bus. When it connects to the car, Bluetooth manually or activate with CarPlay. So I actually need to put this back to manually. I was playing around with it a little bit to see if I could get that to trigger. But if that's not possible to do with something else. But I'm going to pop open Shortcuts, because inside of Shortcuts, if we create a personal automation, then when we scroll down a little bit, there's an option here. For example, if driving is enabled, then what you could do is when driving turns on, you can add an action and just go focus. Ficus is a little different. So let's try that again with focus mode. And apart from OmniFocus and some other things, I should have an option here to set my focus. Okay, so when driving turns on, immediately I want to turn on personal or custom driving or whatever. And then you can just do it until turned off. That is one option. And this would allow you back here in the driving mode to also use the automatically from driving at speed detection, or when it's connected to a car Bluetooth. So it will activate driving and then immediately switch over to your other focus mode. I'm going to disable that because otherwise that's going to confuse me later. But there are some other options. So for example, if your car has CarPlay, you don't need to enable the driving one. Okay, just go ahead, go back into here and actually turn off this activate with CarPlay. Get rid of that entirely. Go into Shortcuts, Automations. When CarPlay connects, enable your focus mode here, and then create another one for when CarPlay disconnects to disable your focus mode. And that is the solution that I would go with there, Micah, if that's what you need from something like this. I know James was talking about locking down a lot of things, so he really does only get those urgent notifications that he needs. But this is how I would automate. If you've got a car with CarPlay, I would 100% use the CarPlay automations here, nothing else. If you don't have a car with CarPlay, then and you do have a car with, say, Bluetooth, then make sure your driving is triggered. The driving focus mode is triggered when connected to the car Bluetooth, and use the Shortcuts automation for when driving is turned on to turn on your other focus mode. And that should do the trick.
Very nice. I'm glad that there is a trigger there that can be used to do that. James, of course, love having those requests from you pop in because you've come up with some really great stuff that folks can sort of play off of. Again, that's kind of what got me into some of the shortcut stuff that I've done. It was all based around the fact that somebody said, I want to do this. And then I thought, oh, if they can do that, then I could probably do this. And suddenly I'm going, holy moly, look at all this stuff I could do. So really love that we've always got some great ones coming in.
Yeah.
We've trimmed them
I've
down
got a little spoiler for next week as well. We've got somebody who's written in with a really great request about reminders, which I will be going into next week. I need to do a little bit more prep on that. I didn't have time to get it in for today's show, but we've got some great requests coming in. So make sure you send yours in as well, and we will get to them as soon as we can.
Yes, please do. We are trimming them down a little bit today because of there was just a lot of iPhone and iPad mini stuff to talk about, but there are these as well. All right, next one is from the feedback section, and this one comes from Sean. Sean says, does anyone know of a way to see an audit of HomeKit actions? I have a good night action that shuts off all my lights and locks my doors. Twice now, it has been set off seemingly for no reason. I suspect my HomePod in another room heard something, but I want to make sure it's nothing else. Sean, this is a really good question. And I'm curious to hear if Rosemary has something available on iOS to do this. And if not, I know of a new app that's in the works that will work on the Mac that could help with this. But tell me what you know, Rosemary.
Well, so what I know is you can't necessarily get the logs from Siri itself, but what you can absolutely do is you can get a log of HomeKit events. So for this, I'm using an app called Controller for HomeKit, and I've paid their in-app purchase so that I've got the Pro. And what you can do is inside of logs, you can actually see logs. But to start with, before you can see those logs, you need to go into the settings for Controller for HomeKit, and then you need to turn on Collect Logs. Okay. And once that's turned on, then you can say when it should automatically delete the logs. And then you can say either when the app starts. So when it starts, you're going to lose everything that is logged previously, but then you're going to have a fresh set of logs from that point onwards, which is really useful if you're trying to find out, hey, when I press this button, is this thing actually turning on or not? And for things like that. And then you've also got after a week, a day, or a month. And I've set this to a month because it's always useful to be able to go back. I actually previously had this set to a week. And then on holiday after, I had some problems with my power when I was away, actually, unfortunately, which I'm going to be getting into in a future episode, how I'm using shortcuts to tell me whether or not I've got power at home. But what I found is just over a week after I'd left, I was there going, wait, did I lock the door? I don't remember locking the door. And of course, I came into here and the logs were empty because there was no power. So I couldn't just check on the lock remotely. I needed to look in the logs and the logs were empty because it was just over a week by the time I remembered, hey, I've got that app with all these logs and a bunch of other useful features as well. So I've changed this to a month. And it stores this in iCloud as well. So that syncs across my devices. But then if I go into the logs, then I can see everything that's happened. So for example, just a couple of minutes ago, the storage cupboard door sensor logged its battery level at 64%. And the kitchen light was off, and the current light level in the living room is 33 lux. The relative humidity on one of my sensors, which apparently needs renaming, is 56%. And I have all of this information here, which is really useful. So I can see exactly what's turned on. Now, this does mean that potentially you might end up doing a little bit of filtering to find out, for example, specific characteristics of something. If you're looking specifically for something, it turns on to say, I don't know, at 67% brightness or something, or the power state is, the power state is toggling or something. Or you might find, just swipe to delete, then you can filter for devices in a specific room. This can be really useful as well. So if you want to look for specifically the devices in your bathroom to find out, what are these really turning on at the same time? You've got all these devices in that scene. Unfortunately, there's no way to know what precisely caused this to happen. And that is a little bit difficult. And unfortunately, I don't know of a way to find that out in HomeKit, with the exception of stick a recorder in every single room and record things. And then as soon as you think the scene is triggered, run into the room, stop the recorder, rewind, and listen. But that's not exactly the most useful of options, but that's the only one I can think of for finding out whether or not a HomePod specifically has heard something. But Micah, what was your suggestion for macOS?
Yeah, so Aaron Pierce, who makes some excellent apps for both macOS and iOS, some excellent HomeKit apps, Home Camera, Home Pass, Home... I can't remember what the main one is. Home Control. There are so many good ones, and so you could check out those. But Aaron Pierce is currently working. It's in beta, Home Log, and so it is an app that you can keep running on your Mac that will basically do what Rosemary was showing in Controller. So again, not to the level of being able to determine which device might be doing it, but as Rosemary was saying, if you know right when it happens, then that might give you a hint as to what's going on and what's causing that issue. So you can at least get closer to that solution of figuring out where in your house something is telling your devices to trigger in the way that they're being told to trigger. And I like this too, it could be a reminder that maybe at one point you set up some automation that you didn't remember. And so that you can go, oh, right, I have the Eve app running an automation at this time that exists outside of my normal automations. I totally forgot to turn that off. So it can help you with that. So between those two, you will definitely have your logging taking place. You can make sure that you catch it and see what it is that's doing it, or at what time it's happening. Yes.
One other thing that I'll mention is looking at automations inside of HomeKit can feel very frustrating, basically. Inside of the Home app, it's not great. If you pop over to the Shortcuts application, you will be able to see a little better. So I can see, for example, I've got some scenes here which I've got some automations here which have actually got no scenes or accessories in, and I can just see a little summary underneath device, each automation as to what it does. Office all lights on, for example, when the living room TV turns on, turn off the living room HomePod, and things like that, or pause playback on the HomePod, and things like that. So I can see a lot of these things here, which might be useful to you. If it's got a name for something, that's usually because it's triggering a specific scene. But that could be useful. Or similarly, Controller for HomeKit or Home Plus is another great app I would recommend. If you pop into that, then you can see automations there. This also has a handy dandy little green or gray dot so that you can identify which of your automations are active. And of course, you can swipe to delete. And I believe there used to be... I thought there was an option where I could tap to disable as well. I'm probably misremembering that, but you can do a little narrow view, or if you tap on this icon, then you can do a larger view. You can also sort these by room so that you know which automations happen for which room, and filter as well. I have to say, I'm really impressed with Controller for HomeKit. They've really been knocking it out of the park recently. They added a feature for me just a couple of weeks ago where I can add a filter for scenes without actions. And so I can see all of my scenes that don't have actions in, because I realized that I had a bunch of scenes which were empty and I needed to fix. And so I tweeted on Twitter and somebody mentioned that maybe they could add it, and they did within a couple of weeks. So that was lovely. I've just realized I wasn't showing my phone for that whole time, which is very annoying. I pressed the button, I swear. So yes, this is Shortcuts automations right here, where you can see if there are Shortcuts automations, and then Controller for HomeKit, there are automations which can be sorted by type or sorted by room with this green or gray dot.
Mm-hmm. All right. I believe that means it's time for our app caps up next. Alrighty, folks. This is the App Cap segment of the show, the part of the show where we wear silly caps atop our head or around our head to honor our picks of the week. Sometimes they're apps, sometimes they're not. In this case, mine will not be an app. But Rosemary Orchard, tell me about your app, or tell me about the cap atop of your head, and then tell me about your pick of the week.
The cap on top of my head is a hat that apparently was very difficult to put on, as people watching the video can attest. I put it on wrong 3 times, which was impressive. It is a black hat. It's a little sort of felty type thing with a lovely white band. And then on the front, it's got a lovely checkered bow tie and some bunny ears because, you know, bunny ears just make everything better. And my app cap this week is brought to you by a problem my dad brought up to me. Rose, I want to grab a still from a video that I took. I just want, you know, this shot right here. And I had to think about it, and I was there going, well, you know, you could probably just take a screenshot of it and it'll be fine. But you know, there's got to be a better solution to this problem. And so I went online into the App Store and I had a look, and I found this great app called Frame Grabber. I'm just going to open it up if App Library will work for me, which there it is. And now I can pop it up here. So I just reinstalled the app. So Frame Grabber gets videos and live photos from your photo library, and then it allows you to grab a shot from it. So I'm going to allow access to all photos. And then here you can see I took a little video earlier because I was planning on doing this. And so what I can do now, I've got this shot. Okay, it's a perfect shot. Micah looks slightly upset about something. I can't remember precisely what it was that he looks upset about, but that's fine. And then I can just tap share, and it's exported that as an image. And now I can just hit save. And that is it. It is an incredibly simple application. If I tap on the 3 dots on the top right, then I can change things like the quality, make it 100% quality, save images as HEIFs versus JPEGs, export to photos directly versus the share sheet. I can, you know, you can do time formats and so on, and you can also do metadata and things like that. So you can, you know, scrub along. If I wanted to export that as a photo, you'll see this icon here has changed, and that just saves it straight to photos now. You can also tap by using these little arrows at the bottom to switch back so that you can, you know, see. Just go along frame by frame. Oh, yeah, that's almost. There we go. Michael looks particularly unhappy in that shot. Perfect. Save and done. And yeah, this is Frame Grabber. You can use it to select, you know, you can select different albums and so on. You've got sorts, and then you've got some information as well. It's actually an open source one app as well, which is lovely. And there are some donation options where you can send the developer, Arthur, an ice cream for, I believe it's about $3 probably. But it's a completely free app to download. So I would highly recommend it. It's great. It's wonderful. It did exactly what I needed it to when I needed it to do it as well.
I love it. So for me, I wanted to talk about something hardware wise, because I think that, I forgot to talk about the cap around my head. I'm wearing some sort of yellow
fabulous
flower. And folks who've been long time listeners and viewers of the show will recognize this hat, for sure. It's just slightly too small. So if I put it all the way on, it chokes me. But if I put it in front of me, then it kind of makes it harder to talk. But anyway, while I wear this yellow daffodil around my face, I will talk about my pick, which is some of the cool new products from Joby. So you may recognize that name as the makers of the GorillaPod line. These are these very clever tripods that have, each of them is sort of a little ball segment or ball and joint segment, so that you can wrap the GorillaPod around different things. People will put them on, handles and their bikes and clamp them to the side of a table or just use them as normal tripods. And the GorillaPod makes it very easy to control that. GorillaPod, or Joby rather, said, you know what we're going to do? We're going to make devices that make use of MagSafe technology. And with this new cinematic camera, I thought now would be the perfect time to talk about this. So one of the things you can get, and let me just reach for it here for a sec, is the new Grip Tight GorillaPod for MagSafe. And so this has a GorillaPod tripod and a MagSafe clamp for your iPhone. So one of the things you get is the standard, very nice GorillaPod tripod that you get, and this can wrap around different things. Each of these little ball and socket joints have a sort of rubberized area around the outside of them. So they're super grippy, even as they clamp onto things. It's kind of amazing. It's also just a fun fidget toy. So if you're just sitting there and you need something to sort of fidget with, you can try this. It's got the standard threading at the top, and it's very sturdy once you get it exactly as you want it. I was just using it the other day, clamping it to this pole. And so the pole, of course, it didn't have a mount standard. So I was able to take this and wrap these little arms around and get it exactly how I wanted it. But as if the GorillaPod itself was not magic enough, the clamp is very cool. So it has the standard thread on the bottom, but it also has one on both sides so that you can clamp it, or you can screw it on to, it doesn't just have to be the GorillaPod tripod. You could screw it onto whatever you want. And then the main clamp part of it can rotate. Maybe it's like 20-degree increments there, all the way around 360 degrees total. And then here's the normal way of doing things. It has one of those nice clamp mechanisms where you twist this out and you can put your phone or what have you in here, the spring-loaded clamp that exists, and then you can hold your phone. But if you've got a MagSafe iPhone, then you can just swack this thing. You can just swack that thing onto there, and it's held now with the mount. And right now that looks, it looks like the lens is covered, but that's just because I have it turned the wrong way. If I were to turn it this way and then pop this on there, now you can see that the cameras are not covered up. So I could have this held on the side. I could turn it like this and have it held up and down. You can use both MagSafe and the clamp at the top and the bottom if you do have some concerns about it. But what I found handy was just how easy it is to MagSafe this on there and take it off and get it exactly how I want it to be able to use as a little hand-holding tripod. So even this on its own is a really nice sort of handheld tripod, but then you get to go further with the MagSafe, with the GorillaPod tripod. And then there was one other product that I wanted to mention from Joby, and that was the Grip Tight wall mount for MagSafe. Mm-hmm. This is a very, very simple device, but it's one that I think more people will find handy than maybe you would even think. This little thing is just a MagSafe puck that you can stick to many surfaces. So maybe you're an influencer who does makeup in your bathroom or something like that. You stick this to the mirror, and then you've got a MagSafe mount for your iPhone with that front-facing camera to you. But because it has that really nice modern, it's almost like a gel. It's a gel that doesn't leave residue. You can peel it and stick it to different surfaces all the time. So, I might want to just stick it to my wall and stick my phone to it just temporarily, or I might want to stick it to my refrigerator as I'm doing something in the kitchen, or wherever you want to put it. This thing makes it so that you can put it there just using that MagSafe thing. Or if you wanted to use it for for your car, for example, then you could do that too. And then afterwards, you just rinse the back of it, the sticky part on the back, to sort of reset it, recharge it. It's very handy. And again, it works with your MagSafe iPhones. So I think Joby's killing it with these new MagSafe products. And I wanted to give them a shout out. They sent these to us a bit ago. And I finally, with the new iPhone 13, I thought, oh, this is the perfect time to give it a try. And I was very impressed. $24.95 for the wall mount for MagSafe, and then $69.95 for a GorillaPod and the actual MagSafe mount on top. So you get, I think that's a really good deal that you get. Oh, and I should also mention that each of these threads also can be used with some of Joby's other products. So you could have a microphone connected to one side with a GorillaPod arm and a light connected to the other with a GorillaPod arm if you wanted to sort of make a full vlogging kit out of just this one device. So it's the best of both worlds in terms of MagSafe and GorillaPod technology coming together to make this possible. I think it's a really cool design, and it was fun to get to try it with my new my new iPhone 13.
Yeah. Yeah, I just want to say as well, I've been really enjoying those. I'm hoping to use the tripod a little bit more on Friday. I'm going to go take some pictures in places. But the mount that you can stick to a wall, I've pretty much just left that in my kitchen, and it is great for just, putting my phone there while I'm cooking or something, because then I can have, the recipe open on that, which is wonderful. So I'm really enjoying it. So yes, thank you to Joby for sending us those, but they are genuinely very good devices. And I love the fact that it uses standard camera threads as well. So if you've already got a great tripod and you want to be able to just chuck your iPhone on there as well, you can just screw that mount straight onto a tripod and you're good to go.
Now I just want Apple to add MagSafe technology to iPad mini, because then it would be the perfect thing for the kitchen, wouldn't it? You just pop that iPad mini on there. You've got your perfect recipe box, and Rosemary, your app where you can wink to change the pages. That would be so handy. I love
Crouton. Yeah, Crouton is great for that. Yeah, no more getting flour all over your iPad.
All righty, folks, that brings us to the end of this episode of iOS Today. Again, you can send your questions, feedback, your Shortcuts Corner requests into iostoday@twit.tv. You should tune in live if you'd like to see us record the show live. We record every Tuesday at 9 a.m. Pacific. All you do is head to twit.tv/live, where you can see the different streams that we use, be it Twitch or YouTube or what have you. But we think the best way to get the show is by subscribing to the show, twit.tv/iOS. You head there, and by doing so, you can subscribe in audio or video formats across Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Pocket Casts, Spotify, etc., etc., etc. By the way, I mentioned earlier Discord. You might have been wondering, wait, there's a Discord? What? I want to know more about that. Well, if you would like to get all of our shows ad-free, you should check out Club Twit. Club Twit is a great service where for $7 a month, you get all of our shows without any ads, including iOS Today. You also get access to the Twit Plus bonus feed that has content you're not going to find anywhere else. That is slowly starting to fill up with product reviews, as well as a bunch of stuff that gets cut from the before show and after show. And my favorite thing, which is access to the members only Discord server, where you can join us fellow Twits as well as your fellow Club Twit members in conversations. Rosemary is incredibly active in the Club Twit Discord, which is super awesome. So as she had mentioned earlier, she and James were talking and getting some solutions even before the show. So if you really have a question, you're worried we might not get to it on the show, becoming a member and hopping in there might be your chance to get that question answered or help to inspire a bunch of new things to take place. All right, folks. Rosemary Orchard, if folks want to follow you online and check out all the great work that you are doing, where do they go to do so?
And the best place is rosemaryorchard.com, which has got links in the top right to all of my different social media platforms. Or you can just find me on micro.blog or Twitter with the username Rosemary Orchard. Or feel free to just post in the Club Twit Discord. And I do see everything that happens in the iOS Today channel. And I also love seeing other people share their own solutions to the problems that get posted, as well as, we'll answer whatever we can on the show. But I love seeing that it's a really great community that helps each other out. Micah, where can people find you?
You can find me at Micah Sargent on many a social media network, or you can head to chihuahua.coffee, CHIHUAHUA.coffee, where I've got links to the places I'm most active online. Until next time, this is iOS Today, and will continue to be so. We will talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. Goodbye.
Goodbye, everyone.
If you find yourself talking to those virtual assistants in your house quite often, or maybe you can make your light turn on and off with the touch of a button, well, Smart Tech Today is the show for you. Join Matthew Casanelli and myself, Micah Sargent, every week as we talk all about smart stuff and the fun that comes along with it.